there's a lot of girls, a lot of women, a lot of victims, but she was different. She was on the inside. She was one of those, and being somebody that was on the inside of Trump's mega world, knowing how they think. No,
Hey, folks, you've joined me in mid-conversation with Lev Parnas. Lev Parnas was a former Trump fixer, realized, hey, I think I'm helping one of the worst people on earth. Unfortunately, paid the price for it, went to jail, came out, and is now trying to lead the resistance. He is the author of and editor of the Substack Lev Remembers. And Zev Shalev, investigative reporter, was formerly at corporate media, CBS, I believe, right, Zev? Um,
CBS and various others, yes, but CBS is the big one.
Before CBS was taken over by David Ellison and Barry Weiss and an insanely right-wing pro-Zionist agenda, Zev was there. But
Yeah.
thankfully he left. He left, and now he's the editor of Narrative. And we have Zev and Lev a day before I think a giant book is about to drop, which has already caused ripples across the world. Virginia Giuffre, a survivor who unfortunately died earlier this year, a 16-year-old girl whose father was a manager of Mar-a-Lago properties. She got a job as a spa attendant. She was reading a book on how to become a professional masseuse. Ghislaine Maxwell, who you know, helped rape girls with Jeffrey Epstein, was visiting Mar-a-Lago, even though Donald Trump barely knows anything. Ghislaine, who's that, huh? He said that 2 weeks ago, right? So then she goes up to Virginia, who's a girl, and says, "Oh, you want to be a masseuse? I know someone who could help you. His name is Jeffrey Epstein. We'll give you a job and we'll train you. Come on over." She's 16 years old. She goes, "This is great." She goes over, and apparently, according to Donald Trump, his words, in the summer, when reporters asked him, what was the rift between you and Epstein, he said, he stole property from me. And he was referring to Virginia Giuffre as the property. Virginia Giuffre goes to Epstein, where she says, her words, "I was passed around like a platter of fruit to some of the world's most powerful men." Some of the men that she mentions were Prince Andrew. According to the book, according to the New York Post, another man was, we mentioned it, Zev, Ehud Barak, former Israeli prime minister. There's multiple videos and logs of him visiting Jeffrey Epstein in New York, right? Virginia Giuffre died earlier this year. At first, her father said he suspected no foul play. Now her father says, I don't know. And speaking about foul play, CBS, before Barry Weiss completely took over, I think they did their final act of journalism. They showed 90 photos of Epstein's prison cell. We've talked about it on the show before, where they showed just classic mishandling of evidence, mishandling of markers, mistake after mistake. The two guards weren't interviewed for like nearly 2 years, which, for all of us who aren't conspiracy theorists, we're like, bro. And then to make it worse, Wall Street Journal repeatedly keeps leaking these things about Epstein. Uh, Pam Bondi told Donald Trump apparently early as in May that he's in the Epstein files, which means since May, there's been a massive cover up. Pam Bondi said she had the files on her desk. Now, no files. Kash Patel said nothing to look about, nothing to see here, nothing to worry about. Ghislaine Maxwell last week got a high profile an unidentified visitor at the minimum security camp, which has pissed off all the other inmates. Who's the unidentified visitor? And then, as this is happening, folks, the House is shut down, and Mike Johnson has no excuse as to why he has not sworn in Adelita Grijalva, the representative from Arizona, who has openly said she will give the 218th vote to release the Epstein files. And now there's more and more pressure, guys. I don't know if you saw ABC News pressured him, Jake Tapper pressured him. There's literally no reason. So what we're seeing this is my take, Lev and Zev. We're seeing one of the biggest cover-ups in modern history, where the entirety of the GOP, not just the Trump administration, but the entirety of the GOP realizes that Donald Trump and other men are complicit. And if these Epstein files come out, according to Eric Swalwell last week, he said, a Republican colleague said, it's just a matter of time. And once it comes out, the entire house of cards will fall. That's just my opening salvo. Zev, I'll give it to you first.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Waj, and thanks for having me on. It's a great summary of everything that's been going on. And, people people always ask me why Epstein, why is this such a big deal? I mean, so this is a long time ago. It's a story that's pretty old and it's still with us for some reason. And the answer I always give them is that it's not just about the rape of these young women. It's about the financial crimes that we went along with the rape and human trafficking of these young women. And what we've seen time and time again in my research is at the very core of all the corruption we have seen in our society, in our government over the last 40 or 50 years came from Jeffrey Epstein.
Mm.
Corruption is the thing that has poisoned our democratic system more than anything else. We've seen our debt balloon to $40 trillion. That is all based on the fact that a bunch of billionaires have run up the markets, tanked them, and then made a ton of money on the back end of them by selling, by benefiting from the bailouts, the people's bailout that we gave
Trump
them.
is still doing it.
Trump is still doing it. You're right.
Randy Open.
You've got to, this is corruption. We saw 7 million people show up this weekend to protest. What did they protest? They protested the fact that the system is so corrupt, that he is making $10 billion of crypto right now while cutting healthcare to Americans at the same time. There's nothing more obvious than the corruption that we're seeing right now. It's happening before our very eyes. And Jeffrey Epstein is the core of this thing. So when Geoffrey's book comes out tomorrow, it will again open up our eyes to the things that they did, the things that Donald Trump, Jeffrey Epstein, and his cohorts, this group of rapists and human traffickers and convicted criminals in many cases, people who are organized criminals, people with foreign intelligence ties, what they did to our society and our politics, what they did to the very core of what being American is all about. And that's why the book is so important that it comes out this week, and it's so amazing that posthumously we get to read this thing. But also, it's so important that Ms. Gralva is seated and that we actually get a representative for her district in Arizona, because she's been in government. She should be in government for over a month now. She can't even get into an office.
Yeah, 3 weeks. Lev, you said right before Zev joined and as we press record that you've heard that the Trump administration is not too happy about Virginia's book that's coming out tomorrow.
Oh, no, not happy at all. And that's some of the things I'm still waiting. We might be breaking some news on some of the stuff that they're planning to for tomorrow to counter the attention. And that's why one of the things that everybody out here right now, it's extremely important. No matter what breaking news you hear tomorrow, don't let them try to get away with trying to cover up, because this book is extremely important. And the good part, it's not one day. It's a book. It's going to come out. There's going to be, I hope her family is allowed to go on a book tour and go on every podcast, on every media and expose. I mean, some of the things that just were already leaking. The fact that, I mean, you mentioned it. I don't know. I didn't read the book, so I can't confirm. But they're talking about that she writes there where she was left bloodied after she tried to resist dealing with the major U.S. ally prime minister. Now, I don't know if it's
Barack.
If it's him. I mean, just a thought of the things. If these are the things that are leaking now, that she put out there. And remember, these are her words, because she was scared that she was going to. There's plenty of interviews with her out there. With her final words, where she's saying that if you're listening to this, that means I'm not here. If you're listening, so she was always, she was. And the reason why I understand her is because there's a lot of girls, a lot of women, a lot of victims, but she was different. She was on the inside. She was one of those, and being somebody that was on the inside of Trump's mega world, knowing how they think. No, that's why they're so scared of her, because, like you said, her father worked for Donald Trump in Mar-a-Lago. That's where they targeted her, and this is where she was exploited. She talks about how Maxwell right now, and this is very key also, because some of the things that right before we went on, you asked me if I got the scoop or not. I'm still working on it. Part of what I'm working on too is I'm hearing about this, and it's crazy that I'm even thinking about to say this, but he's really planning on pardoning her quickly, because of the book, because of now the pressure, that because in the book I'm hearing, Virginia's gonna talk about how it was Maxwell who did everything, who took her in, who groomed her into coming in, and then her becoming, in their family of perverts and being passed around, and all the other gruesome stuff. So the important part is this is, not the end. This is the beginning. The book, the fact that, we have, they could run, they could hide, as they say, but they're going to have to eventually swear in this congresswoman from Arizona. And once that happened, those votes will hit. And speaking to, I had Congressman Don Bacon on my show, somebody that actually didn't vote for, taking it out of the House, but he did say to me on live, he said, "Listen, Lev," he goes, "that even though I didn't vote for it, and a lot of people did because they were scared of Trump, once this hits the floor, you will see hundreds of Republicans voting for. You will see a tidal wave, and which is that would confirm what Swalwell was saying, also saying from what he heard that you were going to hear a tidal wave. So the most important thing is we need to keep the pressure on. We need to make sure that we use every excerpt out of that book, every and bring truth to light. And with that, this is where we need to. And I hope Congressman Rokana, Congressman Massey, because Massey's out there talking about the names, naming. I hope they're out there on the front lawn every day, taking away this news cycle for the next every day for a week, no matter what Donald Trump tries to do to take the week. No matter how he tries to use Putin and Ukraine and Russia, this Budapest meeting they're about to do to try to distract from what really is about to take place here. No matter how they try to use the closure of the government by not swearing in a sitting U.S. Congresswoman, we need to continue making it, because the one thing yesterday that should show everybody that when we unite, 7 million people, when we unite, when we let it makes a difference. It triggered him. It triggered him to such a fact that he was making AI videos of discussing things that I'm not going to. That is something very serious and sick for a U.S. president too, because remember, it shows him on the world stage. It's one thing what we're talking about saying, it's another what world leaders, others are understanding that he is losing it, that he is making it, and the things that trigger him. So we need to keep loud. We need to keep strong. But everything you said, Waj, everything Zev, reported on. I mean, it's coming to fruition. Everything we've been talking about is not coming. We're coming to a head. And now we need to, this is when we need to be even stronger, even more pushed to be able to get the word out. And I think, we're going to do it. But like we always say, this is his Achilles. This is his, what did you say?
Achilles tendon.
Can't go. This is the way you say it, but this is definitely his kryptonite, and we need to push it as far as wide and use some of their own words. Charlie Kirk wanted it. Hey, Donald, do it for Charlie. Marjorie Taylor wants it. You got plenty of people on there. Anna Paula Luna, that's trying to speak with the Russians right now. She's bringing out CIA. She still wants it. I mean, so you have enough ammunition. We just need to, and there's certain things I can't go into right now, but I'll tell you this much, guys, that I've noticed a little traction. I've gotten some phone calls finally back from certain people. I'm praying and hoping that we're going to see some movement, and I think that we'll have some big announcements soon. But we're going to make a difference. We know where to hit them. We know what to do. We just need a unified front and some people that are ready to stand up and not be scared to fight the fight and bring it to them, and not stand there and play defense all day long and be running around not knowing how to answer questions.
God, the avatar of God is here, and he's the one that actually gave me Achilles cankle. So thank you, God, who I think was in the comment
Hey, God.
section. And also, folks, I'm glad you mentioned the pardon, because I want you all. We try to our best to keep receipts on all of our shows, and we try to connect the dots, because I know there's so much for most people, it's overwhelming. Just a week and a half ago, when Donald Trump was asked openly about the use of the Insurrection Act, he didn't say no. Stephen Miller has invoked the Insurrection Act. Donald Trump didn't say no about the Insurrection Act. And then Pam Bondi talked about the Insurrection Act. When he was asked about the Insurrection Act, Lev and Zev, he was also asked about Ghislaine Maxwell. And he was asked about pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell. And that's when he said, Ghislaine who? Huh? What? And then what's her name? Oh, yeah. But then he did not say no. Now, you would think in normal times, any president, if you ask him about a pedophile, I'm using those words, a woman who was convicted of sex trafficking, a woman who was the right-hand woman of Jeffrey Epstein, one of the most notorious pedophiles on earth, a woman who's about to serve a 20-year sentence, but then got sent to, and no one knows why, we know why though, a minimum security camp in Texas, you would say, Of course not. Why would I pardon a pedophile or a accomplice of a pedophile? What did he say? He didn't say I'll look into it.
He said, I
No,
could. I could.
he
I
said,
could. I could,
I
Turner.
have the right to do it.
I have the
Yeah.
right to do it. And then, folks, over the weekend, who did he pardon? Jorge Santos, George Santos, the first man on the moon. I said last week, especially when I saw the George Santos, the center for the Los Angeles Lakers, the man who invented Spanish, I said that's a sign. The fact that he said he's open, he didn't deny, he didn't close the door to pardoning Maxwell. Then the fact that he pardoned Santos, Zev, and the fact that I know for a fact, well, now we all know for a fact that Ghislaine Maxwell had the goods, had the notebook. We've seen the notebook. We've seen not just Donald Trump's disgusting message, but all the disgusting messages. Michael Wolff told me that could have only come from Ghislaine Maxwell and the estate of Maxwell, which means that she probably has a whole bunch of other stuff. If I'm Ghislaine Maxwell, and I had, again, folks, last week, Wall Street Journal said an unidentified high-profile visitor came and visited her in this minimum security camp. Huh? Who? We also remember that Todd Blanche, Donald Trump's personal attorney, left D.C. Assistant Attorney Generals never leave D.C. and went and met with Ghislaine Maxwell for 2 days, right? And then less than a week later, she gets the transfer to the minimum security camp. Zev, listen.
Well,
I know
one thing
people think.
yeah,
Go ahead.
No, that's one thing that is become quite clear is the Supreme Court rejected her appeal. Ghislaine Maxwell's appeal went in front of the Supreme Court. They rejected it. They didn't want to hear it. That has probably thrown their entire camp into a tizzy because they thought, well, the appeal would let them off, and that would be fine. It's also forced Donald Trump probably into a position where he's like, I've still got this really bad, potential outcome. If Ghislaine Maxwell actually decides to come out there and speak the truth about me, oh dear, what am I going to do? Which is why when you're talking about pardoning them or them pardoning Ghislaine, it makes all the sense in the world because Ghislaine Maxwell can undo Donald Trump. It's not very hard for her to undo Donald Trump. In her taped recording, her interview, call it what you will, with Todd Blanche, she's very nice about Donald Trump. She calls him a complete gentleman. But the truth of it is, anyone who's done even a little bit of investigation knows that Donald Trump and Epstein were, attached at the hip financially and in their interests in raping young women. So this thing here that is such a hot potato for him. Ghislaine Maxwell could come out and destroy Donald Trump, and so he is likely to do anything he can to get rid of her, and that would mean pardoning her.
Well, I'll go even a step further from somebody that actually knows not only Donald Trump very well, but knows Todd Blanche very well. Todd Blanche was part of my legal team, for those of you that don't know. So I know these people extremely well, and I can tell you this one thing. Watching to see the way certain things happen, the way Waj explained to you, these are very important. I'm going to connect some dots here for you folks to understand what's taking place right now and what Zev said with the Supreme Court, how it all fits together. First of all, we already understand that things don't happen. People don't get transferred that quickly. There was no response there. There was nothing. It all started, just like Wash said, with the release, remember, of the infamous birthday letter. That famous birthday letter that there was a book, the Wall Street Journal published it. Trump went after. He's going to sue Murdoch for billions of dollars. Remember, nobody's suing anybody. All of a sudden, that is now extremely correct. The information came out. We know the book, just like Wash said. That interview, the way you heard that interview go out, the relationship that Maxwell's attorney Marcus has with Todd Blanche, and this is being monitored as a situation. This is not like I could promise you where they're sitting there thinking, "Oh, well, she didn't get this. Well, let's see what happens." And no, trust me, that's why I'm here. That's why what I was telling Waz right before we went on, that I'm working on breaking some of the stuff because it's flowing. Because the fact that the book is coming out tomorrow, the fact that Maxwell is still in prison, the fact that the Supreme Court denied her, all of those things are pushing Donald Trump so quickly to pardon her and have her fly somewhere where, nobody will ever know wherever she got from or whatever the case is, that I can't even tell you. So absolutely, this is not that they're just like something. This is the 911 situation that right now the White House, Trump, Blanche, Bondi, Patel, all of them. And remember, the one person that you don't hear about, I keep mentioning him, Waj keeps on, and I truly believe is going to come out, is going to really is Dan Bongino. Still, till this day, nothing, not one comment on the Epstein files. The man that made his whole career spend every day of his life for the past 5 years talking about everything to do with the Epstein files has, since the day he left office and come back, as we reported, has not said one word, and not one reporter has even questioned him on it. We haven't seen him. He's not at the White House. He's nowhere to be found. That infamous meeting they were supposed to have was to rein him in. So they haven't. He's still out there. And that's why I believe that there's still things out there with this. That's why if we keep putting the pressure on, like Wash says, like Zev says, I think we're going to see some major revolution come out in the next couple of weeks.
It's worth mentioning, if I just could here, Lev and Waj, the reason that they're so nervous around this is because Jeffrey's book is all about Ghislaine. I mean, Ghislaine went to prison based on the testimony of Virginia Giuffre. That is why she is in prison right now. So the testimony that's already been tested in front of a court, in front of a jury, has been proven. You know, it's not like we're guessing at the stuff. It's already been proven as fact. That is why Ghislaine is in jail right now. And that is why it's so nerve-wracking for the president that someone is going to be pushing this news story out there that's going to create a market for Ghislaine to react to.
So I want to say, you know how you said things are coming out? I've been keeping track. Last week, Prince Andrew, ahead of this book being published, folks, Prince Andrew, who was protected for years, decades, everyone knew he was an alleged pedophile. Apparently, Queen Elizabeth had a soft spot for Prince Andrew. He was already named by Virginia Giuffre. This is what's so infuriating, folks. We've known this for 25 years. Everyone's known this. Look at that book. Everyone who was friends with Jeffrey Epstein knew he loved girls. The drawings in those books were disgusting. We talked about it in this show, on Zev's show. Zev brought out the images. I don't know if you saw, but Prince Andrew is stripped of his title last week.
Yeah.
And then there were two articles, Zev, that came out this week. And I know you've been following the money trail, and we've been mentioning these names. Leon Black. For those who don't know who Leon Black is, 74-year-old billionaire, private equity investor, formerly of the Apollo Management Group. For some strange reason, everyone's been asking for years, why did this really brilliant billionaire, this private equity investor, a man who's worth, I think, $13 billion, Leon Black, why did he give millions upon millions upon millions of dollars to a college dropout, Jeffrey Epstein? And nobody understood why. And then there was Leslie Wexner, former CEO of Victoria's Secret, another billionaire, another hardcore pro-Israel supporter, right-wing Zionist, who, by the way, gave just so much money, so many gifts to Epstein, gave him the crown jewel of New York's real estate, the penthouse, the infamous penthouse in which Epstein allegedly raped a lot of girls. He gave him that penthouse for $70 million worth penthouse for free.
Townhouse.
And then you saw, I don't know if you saw this, but in the weekend, New York Times did a huge deep dive into Leon Black and his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. And then Miami Herald, the fantastic journalism of Miami Herald, Julie Brown, who won a Pulitzer, if I remember correctly, she came out with a piece a couple of days ago. Epstein had dinners with the top Florida prosecutor on his case, Matthew Menschel. Totally normal. So all of these people now, Zev, I mean, first of all, you're like, well, why didn't people know this shit earlier? Number two, oh my God, this was happening out in the open. But number three, Leon Black is a really powerful, wealthy man, and the New York Times did a huge deep dive. And it's essentially saying, hey, Leon, why did you give him this money? And I think we all know the answer. I think it's all coming out.
It's interesting. The Times, and I have a lot of time for the journalists at the New York Times. Obviously, they've done an incredible job, David Enrich amongst them, in gaining this trove of emails that they've been able to get. I think it's from Senator Ron Wyden's office, ultimately, that they got the emails. But I am disappointed a little bit in what they reported, because it sounds, when you read the whole story, that it's all just about, Epstein doing what he claimed he was doing for all these rich billionaires, which is providing them tax advices and tax dodging. which he probably did do for these various billionaires, and he probably did do it for Leon Black. Was it worth $170 million? No, not likely. And this has been why Ron Wyden has been investigating Leon Black for a very long time to try and understand why is it that this man is paying such high fees to Epstein, who was not even a registered accountant? I mean, never mind anything else. Wasn't a tax advisor, wasn't anything. He just basically is giving this money away. And buried towards the end of the story is a quote from Ron Wyden, because they didn't bring themselves to say it themselves, despite a lot of evidence showing that Leon Black was involved with several women inside Epstein's orbit, and that they received several loans, which are basically payoffs, and that Epstein was quite rough in the way he approached Leon Black, and quite tough in his language, calling his kids retards and a whole bunch of other sort of bullying tactics. And it takes Ron Wyden at the end of this whole thing, in reaction to the piece after it's published, to say, this is actually potentially blackmail. Because the New York Times can't even bring themselves to say that it's blackmail. Now, I reported that it was blackmail that Jeffrey Epstein was involved in 2019. That story has been out there for 6 years. I had two on the record people who would know this about Jeffrey Epstein, people who came on the record to tell me that this was a blackmail operation for an intelligence agency. The fact that, and various others had confirmed it off the record, the fact that 6 years later, we still can't get the major media publications in America and the networks in America to admit this very one thing is mind-boggling. It just tells you how much control there is over the media ecosystem, that still to this day, even with this abundance of evidence, they're still watering down their reporting.
I mean, it seemed clear to me reading that piece, and like you said, the threatening emails, the messages, the follow-ups, the mockery, he was blackmailing him. And it's clear to me he had the goods on him. And you sit there and connect the dots, and you're like, I wonder what evidence or what trash he can have on Leon Black that would give him this much chutzpah and confidence to keep, following up against this billionaire with these type of threats. And the billionaire would keep giving him money. Lev, what could it be, Lev?
I mean, but we spoke about not only Leon Black. I mean, we on Zev. Remember, we spoke about there's plenty of evidence that Zev reported on that was part of a strategy that they used against Democrats. For the Israeli intelligence at the time to target certain, and that's why you heard a lot of Democratic people in there. And one of the things that they used was to use underage girls, not even to tell, not even to warn, but to use that as a tool to be able to blackmail, to be able to influence, to be able to target certain people and influence. So, I mean, if it smells like, if it walks like a duck, if it talks like a duck, sometimes it's just a duck. I'm saying to you, it's as plain and simple as what it is. And I think the fact that we're still, till this day, even talking about and trying to, figure out if he was not working for some sort of intelligence, I think the problem, I mean, it's one thing if we were talking about how deep he was, that's different. But the fact that we're still, that there are still forces out there to trying to say that, oh no, he was just some regular dude that came out of nowhere, that, and don't even forget, Bill Barr's father put him as the president, a teacher or whatever at the school. Then Bill Barr, for some reason, is the one that was there to indict him in 2019. He was also under Bill Barr's watch. We don't talk about disappeared. The one thing I am trying to get, and if I get him, I'll bring him on. Maybe Zev, you could put together, and we'll do a whole. So one of the guys that was in prison with me happened to be the one that cleaned Epstein's cell. He was with him in MDC, and then he was transferred over that night to a swanky federal camp, which that later on, me and him intertwined, and I heard some stories there where I'd like for him to talk himself about exactly what he saw, what happened, what went down right after, and the cleaning. One of the things he said when he went in that cell to clean it, he saw so much linen in
Yeah.
there. He goes, now that you're here, he goes, because I was curious, asking him when we first met in prison, and we were going through, so obviously he goes, you were in the shoe in solitary confinement. He goes, can you get all that linen in there? He goes, can tell me how you would hang yourself? He started going, and when he started talking to me like that, I was like, I mean, it's obviously because, there's a lot of things, and it all happened. Let's not forget under Bill Barr. Where's
Yeah,
Bill
Chicago.
Barr? You know what I'm saying?
And Bill Barr visited him. Remember that? Bill Barr visited him in prison. And then also, folks, Epstein was arrested when? During the Trump first administration. Like, you know, I think, like, look, Zev and Lev, we've talked about this before. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I like evidence. I'm telling you, the last 6 months, what I've seen, Zev, you know, what are we missing here? Because you see Ghislaine Maxwell, no one explains why she got this cushy transfer to minimum security prison. You see Todd Blanche meeting her. You see Donald Trump now open to pardoning her. You've seen Wall Street Journal, that flaming leftist Muslim communist rag, drip, drip, drip. You're seeing, Leon Black, the New York Times deep dive as could have been stronger, but it was what it was. Julie Brown with Menschel, Prince Andrew with his title being stripped, Virginia Giuffre with her memoir. What are we missing, Zev?
What we're missing, I think, is the fact that this was not just Epstein. This is a network of individuals who benefited from all this corruption and all this compromise. What Epstein was doing, and this has been told to me by Ari Ben Menashe, Maxwell's handler for many years in London, and certainly as someone who would know this, he said to me that the reason that they went with the underage girls is because you can sleep around with women as much as you want, but it's not a crime. They wanted to get compromising evidence on people like supposedly Leon Black and definitely Prince Andrew, because that's who Virginia Giuffre was set up with, when that girl was underage, because they wanted them to have evidence of a crime, of something that would send them to jail for a long time. So when you went later on to demand a certain policy, or you demanded a certain business deal, or you demanded whatever it is from them, money, you could threaten them with going to jail for a very long time, because that is one of the worst crimes in any American's mind. Raping a child is one of the worst things we can think of. And that is why this very, very conniving, despicable mind did this to all these very well-known, famous people, and many Democrats as well, who, they were trying to control it politically. But it's not just Jeffrey Epstein that benefited from it. The entire network benefited from it. And that network, believe it or not, obviously includes Donald Trump, the current president of the United States. They were best friends for years. He talked about how Virginia Giuffre was a stolen piece of property for Donald Trump when Epstein recruited her, and Ghislaine Maxwell recruited her. They were operating in the same world. They were operating in the same sphere of influence, in the same game. And this is the way they did business. They corrupted our entire system by getting these powerful people in compromising criminal situations and capturing it on videotape and using that against them.
And then Trump and Epstein both got loans the same day from Deutsche Bank, didn't they?
They both joined Deutsche Bank on exactly the same day. So I keep forgetting the exact dates, so I won't try to repeat it. But, there's a history between them having the same bankers, JP Morgan and then Deutsche Bank. They all were connected, all of them, including Robert Maxwell, connected to Ace Greenberg down at Bear Stearns for all the way from the very beginning. The possibility of Jeffrey Epstein, Donald Trump, and Robert Maxwell being at the same brokerage firm in 1980 or 1977, whatever it was, is pretty unlikely. And yet there they all were coinciding, at a time when all sorts of crazy things were happening in our financial system.
Let me tell you guys one thing. I'm not a journalist like Waj. I'm not an investigative journalist like I was one of them. I was in those rooms, and not just with Donald Trump, but for those of you that saw my documentary, know that my life has brought me around the world. Zev has actually investigated me. Zev has investigated me from head to toe, actually. That's how we met. So I've been in a lot of these rooms, and I've seen a lot of how, and then graduating to be around Donald Trump, Rudy Giuliani, and being in that world of seeing how power and how deals are made, how corruption is being put around. I could tell you none of this is coincidences. This is not some, if or what. It like, again, I said, this is exactly playing out. And now the most important thing, and I could tell you, is what Zev and Wash said. It's not about Epstein. It's not about Maxwell. We know they are. Maxwell's in prison. We know that they were guilty of committing these crimes. It's about the biggest cover up America history has ever seen. When the U.S. president is covering up for pedophiles, covering up for child traffickers, for covering up for, that is what this is about. This is about getting justice for all of the victims. Because yes, we hear about, and Virginia, if we got, may she rest in peace, but her voice is going to be the one from beyond the grave that's going to come
Yep.
back to haunt
Yep.
Donald Trump and all of these sick perverts that are still are right now conspiring behind the scenes, spending money going after the Tom Masseys or the Rokanas to get them out, so to shut them up, going after the media to make sure they don't talk about. That is why, again, I'm going to take this 1 second, is why our community here, like Substack, and why people like Zev, like Waj, and other independent journalists out there is so important. Because if you turn on the TV today, you're not going to see any of this on any of the channels. This should be the biggest news right now. Instead, what are we talking about? I guarantee you're going to be talking about for the next 2 weeks about if Trump is going to be hard on Putin in Hungary and getting set for this big meeting that Trump and Putin, in the meantime, to take away from this all that he's doing by the fact that he has, ICE in Chicago, the fact that he's putting ICE in Portland, the National Guard, the fact that we're not even, just think about how crazy it is. We're not even talking about, and I'm proud to say, I want to do a shout out to my son Aaron that broke the news about that they were shooting yesterday during No King's Day. They were shooting missiles into Fort, I don't know exactly, I don't want to mispronounce what exactly, and bits and pieces of the actual missiles fell onto the streets of
in
Los
California.
Angeles, in
Well,
California.
on the CHP, on the
Yeah,
California Highway Patrol, and Gavin,
unbelievable.
we just talked about it, last couple of days ago, real quick, when Miles Taylor and Olivia and I were trying to sign the alarm that JD Vance, in order to distract during the No Kings rally, openly said that he's going to do these military exercises off the coast of California. We're like, what? And thankfully, Gavin Newsom shut down the highway. And what happened, folks, for those who are tuning in and don't know this story, shrapnel from this military exercise done by these two incompetent fools, J.D. Vance and Pete Hegseth, landed on a car of the California Highway Patrol. And God forbid if Gavin Newsom had allowed the freeway to be open, that could have actually injured and or killed someone. Should be
Yeah.
huge.
It's such a joke. It's embarrassing that Pete Hegseth can't even get a military exercise right, and now we're thinking about sending our troops to war in Venezuela under his command. I mean, it's ridiculous.
It's on a CHP vehicle, folks. So speaking about backing the blue and helping law enforcement, Chicago police are getting tear gassed by friggin' law enforcement. They arrested a Chicago police officer, assuming that he was an illegal immigrant. Then you got a CHP shrapnel being hitting a CHP vehicle. Then you got Donald Trump posting an AI video of him shitting on America. I mean, and now you have him like unleashing the National Guard and the military. Like, it's all distraction and a path towards what we have said multiple times to be led as martial law. But I think what's going to hasten that move is the desperation. And I really think Zev and Lev they cannot escape the Epstein files. I think this has him like a cornered rat because he's all up in the files, folks. I want to remind you all that the FBI has a unit that was tasked with finding Donald Trump's names in the Epstein files and scrubbing the names. Okay. That also, Allison Gill was the first one to report, and then CBS confirmed it. CBS and also confirmed that the handling of the Epstein post-suicide jail cell crime space was just completely effed up. Ghislaine Maxwell, no one has explained to us. No one has explained to us why she was transferred to a minimum security camp. It has never been done before. No one has explained to us, really, we still haven't got an explanation as to why Jeffrey Epstein got a sweetheart deal in 2007 and then was allowed to keep raping. No one has explained to us why George Santos got pardoned. Oh, Donald Trump said because he was a good Republican. All of these things are happening, folks. And you said Lev, the ghost of Virginia Giuffre, I think, can haunt these people. It already took out Prince Andrew. I mean, that's a huge thing that happened a couple of days ago. The fact that Prince Andrew gave up his titles. Why did he give up his title? If there was nothing to see, folks, if it was all bullshit, if she was lying, because that's what Prince Andrew and the friggin' his mom, Queen Elizabeth, and all the other people. I hope she burns in hell. I said it. Yes, I said it. Um, they said, "Oh, she was lying, lying, lying." If she was lying, Zev, would he have ever voluntarily given up his titles?
You know why he gave up his titles is because there really is a generational shift happening between the king and the future king. And my understanding is that it's behind the scenes. It's the future King William, and people are starting to call him King William already, who is not interested in having Andrew's legacy taint the royal family, and is quite aware, I'm sure, of everything Epstein and his uncle did for those many years. And Charles has been different. Charles has been very forgiving of his brother, and has allowed him back into the fold. But William is not having it. And it's my understanding is that it's that generational break that's actually forced Andrew, to not attend the Christmas holidays and not be in the pictures at Christmas, which is a big deal in the royal world. So it is very significant that he's given it up, and it tells you how sensitive William is to what's really going on, how close to the ground his ears are, and how far away from the ground Americans' ears are. They're not really seeing what's going on. For the prince to be giving up these titles is a major, major thing. They don't do this for nothing. They very rarely are forced to do anything. So for them to be put in a position where they're taking away a title like that tells you how concerned they are about what's going on. Their survival, I believe, is important here, and it comes into question here. I don't think Americans have quite understood the gravity of all of this.
No,
What if
no.
our entire political system is grounded on a bunch of rapists? I mean, it's the fear of QAnon, but it is actually happening. It's actually happened that our government has been seized by child rapists and organized criminals. This is where we're at.
Guardians of the pedophiles, the modern GOP. Lev.
Yeah, and that's why it's extremely important. Each one of us is asking you, just like Waja said, we cannot let her death go without, an answer. Her voice from beyond the grave, we need to be an extension of that voice. We need to make sure that we amplify it to such a degree that he cannot run, he cannot hide from it, that they have to do something, that they release the files. And that is what each and every one of us needs to do. But also, I want to mention that something I wrote about that is also happening, that some of my sources have told me for a fact. They're currently using psyops, Waj and Zev, here on Substack and other channels.
Oh yeah, for sure, everywhere.
They're putting on bots, they're putting on psyops. So I want to just do a personal announcement to all of you out there. Make sure to see if you're still subscribed, because what they're doing is a lot of people are being unsubscribed, even for free, paid subscribe, doesn't matter. There's psyops that are happening to be able to silence us, silence the message. So for each and every one of you, I know there's also fake accounts being set up on all different people, but one of the important ones is where they're unsubscribing, and that's why you're not able to get the information. If you're not able to see the emails, you're not able to get the notification. So if you see it, like you say, if you see something, say something. Make sure you report it to Substack. Make sure, so this way they're aware, we're on top of it. But for those of you out there, make sure, go out there and, just in case, again, hit that subscribe button just right now for all three of us, if you're up there, just to make sure that you are subscribed.
And if you might think, oh no, Lev's just exaggerating, folks. YouTube and Google have already confirmed that they are removing videos and apps that are helping people track ICE and keep them accountable. So you're seeing a big tech literally bend the knee and be complicit with this Trump administration. Spotify and other big groups are voluntarily running ICE ads. So if you can, folks, make an example out of one. Make an example out of one. Economic boycotts work. We saw what happened with Jimmy Kimmel and Disney. Cancel Spotify. Just try it. Just focus on one, folks. Focus on one, and make an example, right? You saw MIT not bend the knee after MIT didn't bend the knee. Guess who else said, hey, we're going to have courage? You, Penn, and Brown. So you got these three universities have stood up in the past week. You saw ABC stand up because the shareholders got pissed off that they lost so much money because people did economic boycotts. We got a Black Friday coming out in a month, which is the religious holiday for America because capitalism is our religion. It's our like a yearly Hajj. Pick a company. I'm telling you, economic boycotts. I know there's going to be some organizing around it. And then also, if you can, subscribe to all of us because they're going to be desperate and they're going to try to shut down spaces. And I think they realize, oh, wait, a resistance is building on Substack. And that's where people are going. So, of course, they are. Like, think about it. Why wouldn't Donald Trump go after us on YouTube, on Substack, and throttle these type of voices and change the algorithms? You already see Elon Musk doing it on Twitter. And speaking of which, big tech is captured by, well, I should say, has voluntarily bent the knee to Donald Trump. Apple, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. You've seen it. So if you can support us, a final question I have for Lev and Zev. In the aftermath of the No Kings rally, which was 7 million people strong, the largest single day of protest in American history, and in the aftermath of these Epstein files, which are not going away, what is the advice? I'll go to you, Lev, then I'll go to Zev. Advice and or a thread that Democrats must, and not just Democrats, but the majority. Like the majority should focus on this and be loud about this. We're trying to weaken this regime. Lev, you go first.
Yeah, biggest takeaway and the biggest thing I want everybody to hear today is what we saw yesterday can't be just another day. Can't be just another announcement. Can't be just another, let's do this 6 months from now, because then it doesn't work. What we need to turn, what we saw yesterday is over 7 million people, the biggest rally in American history, protests coming out there, people's combining voices being heard. We need to steamroll that and push that into it today. That needs to continue into a movement. That movement has to turn into the Epstein files, what we're telling you, Project 2025, the government shutdown. You don't need any more. It's your economy, it's the Epstein files, and it's what they're trying to take away your liberties and your constitutional rights with Project 2025. If we could just keep that movement going, keep that message going, keep uniting strong, because what we saw yesterday wasn't just Democrats. What we saw yesterday, we saw independents, we saw Republicans, we saw former MAGA coming out there, holding the flag, uniting, coming out in small places like Idaho where it's really red, and there's still people coming out and supporting. So what I'm trying to say is what we can't let that just be a moment in time, because that's what Donald Trump, that's what MAGA works on. The difference between them is they have a machine that fills it every day. We go out there, we have this great hit, yes, and then on to the next one. Another day or two, we're not going to even remember that we had a No Kings rally, 7 million people. That can't happen. And we need to use Virginia Giuffre's voice. We need to use the Epstein files. We need to use Project 2025. And we need to use the government shutdown. Millions of people are suffering right now, and this is only the beginning. I don't want to see Johnson every day out there talking about how this is the Schumer shutdown. They need to use the media. The Democrats have the power, even though I'm going to stop. But we need to just continue. We need to move. We need to unite, and we need to keep the movement going.
Zev, what can they do and what can Democrats do when it comes to Epstein? I still think Ron Wyden, and he's from Oregon, folks, notice the crackdown in Portland. I think the money trail is where it's at. But I think even if you don't have the money trail, just this book and the tranche that the Democrats already have, and the Adelita Grijalva, and the fact that Giuffre and the book, I think they have enough. But what else can they keep pushing on?
I mean, look, I think what you're saying about, and that's very well spoken about the sustainability. We should talk about that as well. But Waj, the answer around Epstein is this book is a gift. You know, she's dead. She's died 6 months ago from a suicide for different reasons, apparently, but not unrelated to Epstein. But her words are going to be the ammunition that we all need to approach every politician. I don't think there should be a single representative who can even open their mouth or mouths on Capitol Hill without the question of Why did this happen to Virginia Giuffre? And why can't we, as American citizens, learn about what happened to her? Because there are going to be allegations in that book that are very detailed, and some are going to be very hard for all of us to stomach. But we've got to make sure that every Republican or every representative is on the record as to why they're either supporting this pedophilia and the human trafficking and the rape of these young women or not. I mean, this is their opportunity to distance themselves from this corrupt government. And then the other part of that is the corruption. This is the thing that we can bring Americans united around is the issue of corruption. And we're seeing it so blatantly out of this White House. It's appalling how we see day after day this self-grifting, this enriching. It's appalling what's going on. And Americans can all agree that that's not the way we want to be governed. You know, this is meant to be a government for the people, by the people. It's certainly not at this point. We've got billionaires running amok in the way that they are, stealing from every American while taking away healthcare on the other hand. We've got to stay focused on that corruption issue, and we've got to do it in a sustained way. We've got to be out every week. We know what to do. The Israelis did it. They've shown us the way. Every week, we have to be outside the White House in hundreds of thousands to say we have had enough of this corruption.
Amen. Zev and Lev, thanks for joining. There's about 2,500 people who are watching us. I know some people tuned in late. We're going to have this conversation up with transcripts at Zev's fantastic. We're going to have a one on Lev's Substack. We're going to have it on my Substack. This is going to be on the left hook. I have no paywalls because I'm a terrible capitalist. Everything's for free. But if you can become a paid subscriber, please do become a paid subscriber to Lev and Zev and myself, folks. Listen. What happened yesterday, what happened over the weekend was huge. Don't sleep on it. 7 million Americans across all 50 states. Grand Tifas came out, people in frog costumes came out and said no kings. There was no major arrest, no violence against police officers, no smearing of shit in the U.S. Capitol, no insurrection. They're scared about it. They are scared about it, which is why Chip Roy came out earlier today and said nonsense, which I won't repeat, which is why Donald Trump said nonsense, which they think it's all cringe and this, because they are scared. They are scared about the fact that everyone's realizing these people are racist. The 2,900 pages of Telegram text where they say, I love Hitler. They realize they're underwater. Donald Trump, according to the AP poll, is at 37. He's a negative double digits on the economy. He's also negative on immigration. The trade war is a failure. The tariffs are being paid by Americans. Grocery prices are still high. He's lost a lot of the Latino voters. They've gone back to the 2016 numbers. The young people have left him. Even Joe Rogan's now like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I don't like this. I'm not interested in kids being zip tied and all this other stuff. So they're desperate. And the Epstein files, again, I know it's going to be a broken record. They are the weakness. They are the Achilles cankel. This is a cornered rat. He cannot escape it, folks. It's a cover up. They can't escape it. So when Virginia Giuffre's book comes out tomorrow, do whatever you can to just promote it. And as Zev and Lev said, ask every single elected official, are you supporting releasing the Epstein files? And if not, why are you protecting pedophiles? Why are you protecting pedophiles? And Mike Johnson has no answer. He should have sworn in Adelita Grijalva over 3 weeks ago. The only reason he hasn't, folks, is because she will give the 218th vote to release the Epstein files. Lev and Zev, final word for you to shamelessly promote yourself.
Go ahead, Zev. You go.
I was going to say, Wash, thank you for everything you're doing. I think your reporting is always spot on, and your incredible broadcasts are so far-reaching, and they do hit the mark. Where there's not this kind of broadcasting elsewhere. So absolutely, hats off to you and Lev for the incredible work that you both do. I think it's so important that we get these Substack voices supported, and that we continue to be able to have a voice. There is definitely an operation underway to limit our ability to reach a broad audience, to contaminate our chats, to really limit the amount of subscribers we get. And we rely on everyone at home to support us, both as free subscribers and paid subscribers. It's how we get to do the work that we do. And, everyone should be supporting everyone on this chat. And thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Lev, how about you?
I mean, Sip, I mean, you guys are great. Independent journalism is what we have left right now to be able to get our First Amendment right, to be able to get the information we get. So make sure support Waj, Zev, Midas Touch, my son Aaron, and all the independent journalists out on Substack right now. They're doing such great work to bring you the information. But remember, I'm not a journalist. I was one of them, and I risk everything getting you the information, and that's why I'm not doing it as a business. I'm doing it to be able to save our democracy and give back to something to as part of something in my heart to know that I could do back to what I was maybe a part of. I've also started a channel on now YouTube. I'm not technically inclined, but now you can also see me on at Love Remembers on YouTube, because I know they're going to try to shut down my channels anywhere. They're going to try to shut down my voice. I've already heard it. So I'm going to go out there as loud as, and I'm not going out there fighting. So I promise you, as long as you're with me, I'm going to be out here giving you the information, the truth, and everything possible. But number one, support all the independent journalists, because that's all we have right now. We don't have nothing else right now standing in the way of getting the information out for you guys to be able to fight to save our democracy.
Thank you all for watching. Be informed, be kind. For those 2,600 people who are watching, I know some tuned in late. Don't worry, this will be up on our channels. Strongly recommend listening to it. We did our best to connect the dots and why the Epstein files are not just so important, but how they will. They will bring down Donald Trump, and not just Donald Trump, but so many powerful men who have escaped decades of any accountability. And literally, the GOP right now, folks, I say without exaggeration, is the guardian of the pedophiles. They know. They know what. And there's this book coming out by Virginia Giuffre tomorrow, her memoir. Don't let her death be in vain. She suffered. That woman suffered for 2 decades. And if this woman's story can help hold people accountable, so be it. And she already got Prince Andrew to relinquish his title, which is a big deal, folks, as Zev was saying. Folks, be kind to each other, be informed, and please, oh, please don't be a fascist. Thank you, Lev. Thank you, Zev. Take care.
Thanks, Waj. Cheers.